Well, hello there and welcome to Friday Focus on this, the 23rd of January. January is disappearing already. We will be here at BET, or we have been here at BET for BET 26. And that's why this is a recorded version. Last one, obviously, we went out live with George Pearson. But today we have invited two guests to talk about various different curriculum and school issues, but I'm really pleased to invite Jill Howard and Christine Cunniff from the Society of Heads. Now, Jill is Director of Education and Christine is Chair of the Society of Heads for this year and Principal of LVS Ascot. Can I welcome you both to the stage? Thank you for being here today. Just give us a little introduction to yourselves. Christine, do you want to go first?
Hi, Chris, and thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this panel today. I am the lucky person who is the Executive Principal of LVS Ascot, a wonderful school where I've been there for 23 years, head since 2010, and really proud to be Chair of the Society of Heads for this academic year. Thank you.
And Jill, so welcome, Director of Education and Education Services. So tell us a little about your role.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and again, thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. It's great to be here with Christine as well. So I've been with the Society of Heads for 9 years this January. Time flies. And yeah, my main area of responsibility is professional development. So looking after all of our training courses and conferences, webinars, all sorts of events that we put on for our members so they can access as much CPD as possible.
Yeah, that's where we met because you invited me to come and speak at your summer event, and that was
Exactly.
such a pleasure to do so. Tell us a little bit about the Society of Heads, because the podcast goes out across the world, so there are people in all parts of the world that will be listening now. So just give us a feel, both of you, for the kind of your role within the society and what the society is aiming to do. Christine, do you want to kick off that?
Yeah, so since I've been a head, I've been a Society of Head member, and the school has been for decades actually. I started off on the committee as the chair of the Professional Development Committee as well, which Jill ironically now chairs. So I've been on the committee since 2014. I've also been honorary treasurer of the society as well. And under our CEO, Clive, we've seen the society grow tremendously in the support that it gives heads and members of the school community as well. So it's a smaller society, but it's like a family, and it's definitely a brilliant place to be.
Yeah,
I have to say that was my feel in being with you. It's a very comfortable place and an open conversation that stood out to me in the conversation. But Jill, do you want to give us a little of your perspective too?
Absolutely. No, and that's lovely to hear, Chris. And I think that's what we do pride ourselves on, as Christine was saying. We're a very collegiate community. Everybody supports each other. We do our very best at headquarters to support our members with whatever they might need, but not only the heads, but the whole school community. So that's how we operate. And really, it's the people at the heart of everything we do. If they're happy, then we're happy. And we know we've got it right. And obviously there's always things that we need to respond to, and we do our best to respond to as much as we can.
And are they mostly schools in England, or they're across the UK, or any international schooling in that in your society group?
Yeah, we have a mix actually. Obviously it's predominantly UK. However, we do have some overseas schools as well, far reaching. From Hong Kong into the Middle East and Europe. So yeah, quite a mix actually, and we're gaining more international members as we speak, which is lovely.
Yeah. Oh, and that is like the one thing I find with a lot of school leaders, particularly in the state sector, is it becomes very insular. It's us and our world, and I'm finding kind of moving out into some of the other areas of particularly school leadership. Collaboration, that the issues are the same the world over. In fact, the narrative that I find in many places is exactly the same. People saying I'm unique, but kind of break that bubble of, well, no, you're not actually, but you could learn a lot by collaborating with other people and sharing those thoughts. So I've got some things that I'd like us to talk about, and I know both of you have got a different focus in your kind of emphasis. So we are going to talk about curriculum, and we are going to talk about well-being, and that probably ties up, Jill, with that the centre of what you've said is very much about the people and the care for them and the need for that. But let's start with curriculum. Christine, we've come through this period of curriculum review in England, and we know that curriculum reviewing is going on internationally. There are lots of jurisdictions that are looking again at curriculum. What for you is not the sort of the nitty gritty? I mean, we can get very quick into whether EBAC is right or wrong and the kind of performance measures, but in terms of the ambition of curriculum and particularly in the independent sector for your members, what's the biggest takeaways for people reflecting on what's happening now with sort of curriculum design? Tell us a little bit how that's impacted the independent sector and your members.
Ironically, I had a curriculum meeting this morning, actually. It wasn't planned. It just so happens that everybody I needed to talk to was free at the same time, which is quite unusual. And so we're looking at the curriculum and trying to actually write our timetable a lot earlier this year than what we normally do. And so we've been debating this morning about what works well. We changed our school day and we introduced more lessons into the school timetable last year. But I think what was really interesting, reflecting on it, was some of the changes that we made were not positive. They haven't worked out, and I think for us, we have the freedom to not experiment, because we'd never compromise what we're doing, all the standards, but to look at different ways and how to do it. And also looking at some of the option choices are really interesting coming in with children now as well, because some of the courses that we thought might be really popular, some of the innovative courses, so like the esports, both at GCSE and A level, and global perspectives, which we thought people would take up because we have a more global perspective when it comes to humanities in the school, we had zero take up. So it looks like we're seeing a shift that the parents and possibly the children, it depends who chooses the options in this scenario, looking for tradition, looking for the stability, I think, of the past, but also looking at an innovative way in how we deliver it. So, so we're looking at a traditional curriculum and a traditional timetable, not moving far away from what we've always done, but delivering in a different way to develop the human skills that we need to do so that we can walk alongside AI and make sure that we're preparing children for the future alongside those 4 Cs. So a traditional curriculum with an innovative approach rather than an innovative curriculum with a traditional approach, if that makes sense.
Yes. I mean, that's the freedoms to be able to make those choices. And certainly I would say, in my experience of, as a result of speaking with you and people in the summer, lots of people talking about reevaluating the day, how it's shaped. I think there may be different opinions on, what you've described as a traditional curriculum. There are people looking at some different things, but certainly the human skills and how humanity, our own humanity is important, and what how curriculum is shaped and reflects the skills that people are going to need as technology grows and becomes more not important but more involved in daily life. That's an interesting perspective. And
there is more focus, without a doubt, on human skills. And that's coming from all, whether it's the pupils, the parents, the staff, whoever you talk to. It's about us being able to think more creatively with critical thinking, being problem solvers, and also working together as well. I mean, interesting conversations about the number of children out of school at the moment and how they're not collaborating together for some of these skills. So there's all these things to take into consideration to make sure that we are developing people for the future.
I think take that point about doing it differently, so maybe having a traditional view. So there's lots of talk. I mean, I've written something this morning that's gone out on relevance and the research of relevance and children wanting. Now, how many of us have had that child that come to us and said, how's this going to fit my future? Or where am I going to use this in the future? So that whole idea of teaching that, not just knowledge for knowledge's sake, but knowledge because it's going to be useful to you. And some of the Relevance Institute work actually suggests that the brain is more motivated by that understanding. And it's really quite interesting. So let's bring Jill. I mean, you're nodding into that because there's very human aspects to that. How does this impact or what are you finding in terms of well-being? Because there's a lot of this change is causing immense stress to leaders, and what are the markers that you're seeing, among the leaders that you're working with?
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, it's a fast-paced world, isn't it, that we live in, and we need to keep up with it. We need to keep ourselves up to date. And I think AI at the moment is probably causing the most. I don't want to use the word stress. I think it's probably just confusion, which may lead to a bit of anxiety, I suppose, because it's sort of filtering through what schools can do with it, what we should be doing with it, but what we shouldn't be doing with it. And because there's so much coming at us, it's hard to filter through all of that. So I think at the moment, AI is big on the agenda. And I think, as Christine was saying, walking alongside the curriculum changes that are going to be coming in, it's sort of making sure that whatever we are doing is going to be fit for purpose, fit for the future, but also benefit the children at the end of the day, because they're the ones who are going to be walking into the jobs of the future. So there may be that uncertainty around, I think, at the moment, as to if I'm going to take this subject, then what will it lead to? How is it going to help me, and how am I going to get a job through it? Can I go and do a degree in it, for example? And those sorts of things may not be there yet. So I think it's just important to make sure that things are married up as much as they can be.
I mean, the whole thing about uncertainty and human reaction to uncertainty is that's one of the things that children have always been. I don't know my future. I don't know how to make a choice because I don't know what it's going to be. I've not experienced it yet, and it's quite challenging for the people that are there to provide that confidence, then not to be certain themselves because of what's going to be there. It isn't clear, is it?
Well, that's right, and we can all sort of get carried along, can't we, by things, and we go, yeah, this is great, we really need to be doing this, but actually in 5 years' time we might all look back and go, oh God, why did we do that? So I think there's definitely treading carefully just to make sure that what we are doing is the right thing, and it's going to give people the support and reassurance and skills, and those human skills, as you've said, are so important. We're focusing on human flourishing, Christine, at our conference, aren't we, this year? And that is all because of this. People still need to know how to flourish and thrive ultimately, so they can look after themselves as well in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think, building on that, it could be why we're seeing that sort of need or want or desire for a traditional curriculum, because maybe there is all this confusion and there is all this uncertainty about the future, and maybe people are actually looking to what they know and what they understand to be successful in the past. We should never look at successes of the past and hope it'd be successful in the future, but that could well explain why we're seeing a shift back to more traditional subjects.
Exactly.
That's a very real issue, isn't it? That people will go back to what they know.
Yeah.
I think some of the future projectors. I mean, I just, Jill, something you said there about that journey to degree. I was listening and talking with some people not long ago that were actually saying, that the university world is changing immensely because. And it's financially led, so if you go into a university and you end up with a 45, 50, 60,000 pound debt, you may, and certainly in the States, in MIT and Yale and others are looking at this, that the prediction is that you'll never pay that off. So people are not going into that with that level of certainty. Now, we know in the UK, there's a real drive to a degree apprenticeships and different ways in. I'm involved in some conversations around degree apprentice teachers, and that as a different route than a degree. But it speaks to that question of where is the certainty? What is it that we know? And there, and I guess that Christine, we've got to have something to come back to, haven't we? We've got to have a ground that we can stand on, isn't it? And that's what you're trying to establish.
And also, I've got children in their 20s who are still finding their way in the workplace a lot later than we did as well. And where they went for traditional subjects, like law and finance, accountancy, there's such a level of uncertainty there too, because I call him the baby, but he's the youngest one. He's just got a master's in law conversion, but you try finding training contracts now, because AI is actually impacting on that entry level. The next one up is an accountant is saying to me, she says, "Mum, I'm seeing years below me now. That's been wiped out." And also consultancy further up as well. Tens of thousands of hours being wiped off the workplace. So they have got that. I'm coming out of university. I've got a good degree, which I was told that I should do because it's stable and something for the future. I've got 50 grand's worth of debt, and look at me. What am I doing? Where do I fit in life? What's out there for me, and how do I get on that rung of the ladder?
Exactly.
So there's obviously lots of models of curriculum, and there are people that are sort of going into what curriculum could look like. And I know, so we've had conversations, and I've talked to other groups about the do targets motivate, and is it just about granular curriculum, and should we be looking at mastery of if you take Bill Lucas's work, Professor Bill Lucas, on creativity, could we have mastery in critical thinking and problem solving? And you mentioned those before, but there's been real problem in the past with people saying, well, here's my problem solving lesson and we're going to do problem solving. It's more about a curriculum that's broad and includes those things. So almost kind of pulling on the Finnish project-based learning or phenomenon learning, or those kind of sort of methodologies. Christy, what's your thought on those? Because what you're saying in terms of a traditional curriculum, it would be sort of granular subject-based in terms of its view. But how do you get the different approach? What's your thought on that?
I think it's, although we are looking at subjects in those kind of isolation, is still to explore how they interact with each other as well, and also to put children in really deep thinking spaces. And this is another theme that we're bringing out in the conference in March, is that from really deep thinking comes amazing outcomes, and not to be afraid that things are hard. So I think for teachers is to throw challenges to children in those hard thinking spaces, almost with the problem at the heart of what they're looking at, to find the resolution in its context of the subject matter. And I'm really, and I know that's hard and it's difficult, because everybody likes a relatively easy time, don't they? They want to learn how best they learn and get it done quickly, especially some of us. And I'm not going to say what kind of people tend to cut corners at all, but I think hard deep thinking spaces are the thing of the future. Throw the problems, throw the collaboration, throw the resolutions, say there is a resolution there in its subject context, let's go find it.
I know that's really powerful stuff to be getting into, because I certainly know that people that are coming to me that are looking for that. I had a conversation the other day with a school that was talking about, enterprise and entrepreneurship. Now, not in the traditional sense of we're going to do business everywhere, but it's problem solving, it's creativity. So how does that fit in drama? We can see that. How does that fit in history? How does that fit in maths or computing? Now that, we're moving into the phenomenon-based learning, the project-based activity. It's not, here's my project, but it's as you say, it's deeper. So how would this be used? What can you do with it? What problems and challenges is that going to bring up? That's a very different teaching approach than the kind of traditional, here's the book, learn this.
I mean, one thing that we've been trying over the last couple of years also based on this is, especially in the lower years up to the GCSE years, we've dropped down days, or half a week, a whole week, and had one topic where we just go on, for example, water. No direction, no nothing, right across the subjects. And it's amazing what the actual teachers and the classes have come up with their focus. So that would be issues with water, distribution of water, pollution, canals, in history, that kind of thing. And even just throwing that one word out there really motivates people, really gets them thinking about our resource, the implications of how these subjects interact with each other as well. We've had some phenomenal results from that.
I can see that, and I sorry, Jill, you're going to say something there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say wonderful. It's lovely. It's sort of music to the ears, really, Christine. And I think, from being a parent as well, you can see that, when children, and my own children for sure, have had, hundreds of things they've got to learn, it's not about the breadth, it's about the depth. And I think that will take away a lot of the anxiety as well around learning and how children learn, because they can literally focus on one topic, but then link it up with the other subjects too. I think this is so key. So yeah,
it's really interesting. I was actually talking to an independent school head earlier, just at the end of last week, and he's a historian. He loves his history and he's very passionate about it. You know, the one thing he said to me is, because his daughter has just got to GCSE, he said, I didn't realise the pressure we put our children at. Just to what you've just said, that the mass of what these children have to learn. I can be passionate about my subject and that kind of insular view, but when you see it in the whole, we realise what pressure we're putting on. You know, the dissonance between the kind of the subject matters, and just think that that's such a powerful thing to do and bring people together. And such, you know, you pick your subjects carefully and you go into it with some wisdom, but it can be so important. Jill, there's two sides of the well-being in this. There's I've just mentioned things about children and the kind of the load. What Christine's saying is that takes a brave leader to do that kind of stuff. What are you seeing in that? You know, because it's easy just to sit back and say, well, I'm just going to let things happen as I know and let it go. What are you seeing in that among the leadership community? You know, that kind of the brave leader. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a lot of brave leaders in the Society of Heads. You know, I think people are very up for a challenge and really want to see change. They want to be the drivers. So yeah, it's about bringing people with them and creating that whole school culture of engagement and well-being where everybody's working towards the same vision. So yeah, I think at the moment there's a real opportunity to do something really different here and set themselves apart.
So in terms of what you've been doing, what are the key markers for well-being across the organisation? What's happening?
What's happening? So, well, lots is happening, Chris. I think I've mentioned to you before that we follow the triple well-being framework within the Society of Heads, and we try and share as much of that as we can with our members. To encourage them, you know, and perhaps give them some pointers on what they might need if they're sort of missing anything. So for us, the self-care element is really important in leadership as well. It's very important that heads, because it can be such a difficult job, but a rewarding one, but very lonely sometimes. So it's important that heads know how to support themselves, look after their own well-being. So we do a lot of work around that. And we also share people care practices too. So looking at different ways of supporting your people, supporting your community. How can we look after our people better? But how can we also encourage our people to learn how to look after themselves too? Because I think as a leader, you're sort of often the one that people will just go to. Christine, you're nodding your head. And they want you to solve all their problems for them. And of course, you can't do that. You know, people do need to learn to self-help as well. But I think if they're working in environments where they feel supported, then it's much easier for them to reach out for help if they need it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a you know, we've kind of gone in that the culture of, you know, you go into a shop, I need to see the manager. You come into a school, I need to see the head. Yeah, and I guess that's what you're referring to, isn't it? You want to kind of mitigating the things that are happening to that, so that doesn't be the thing. Christine, does that I mean, you've moved into other kind of outworkings of it, but does that sound? I mean, it certainly does for me. I remember.
It does, and I think what's great about Society of Heads is and that we are like a family. It sounds a bit corny, really, but we're in regional groups as well. So we've got WhatsApp groups, and quite often, you know, it might be nothing comes out for about a week, and suddenly there's a flurry. Ping! Has anybody ever come across this before? Anybody got any advice for this? And do you have a policy on that? And everybody's, you know, saying, yeah, give us a call, do this. It's amazing, the collegiality and that which makes everything into perspective, because sometimes, you know, somebody just needs to reach out and say, this is what's happening to me right now. And everyone goes, oh yeah, that happened to me last week or 2 years ago. And suddenly you just start feeling better. And it is really important that heads and leaders know that people are going to come to them, because you are there to lead the way. You can't resolve everybody's problems.
No.
Sometimes, and believe me, there's going to be problems that you see this year that you've never seen before. I mean, I've been in teaching for 32 years, and every year I say, I bet you I'm going to learn something this year. Oh, yes, you do. Other people as well. So I think what it is it's about talking. It's about connectiveness with humans. You know, we have to be together for well-being. We need to be together as humans.
Yeah,
we're not good on our own.
No.
I know you've used the term several times, and I know. I mean, we've had Dr. Matt Pittman on the show two times now, and talking about the connected curriculum, and that's really the essence of it. You know, what he's trying to do in Australia, which is, you know, children are connected to the curriculum, the parents are connected to the school, the staff are connected to the children. It's not the them and us. It's not the the professional distance that we kind of talked about for years. But it's actually, I like you, and I want to see you succeed, and I want to see you flourish. Which Jill comes to the conference and the well-being emphasis. I'm just going to pause for a minute because we have to do our social media stuff. So just I'm going to take from the stage for a second, and then I'll be back in a minute. So thank you for being part of this conversation. As a recorded version of the show, you won't be able to put your comments on. We won't be able to comment on them here on the show, but please do leave your messages on LinkedIn or YouTube, where you'll see live messaging available. The show is available on Substack, and it's also available on Spotify. There are lots of other things going on, so you'll know that we've been working with the Education Showroom. So their podcast that I did with Matt Stringer recently will be out on Spotify. Please link up there, go and have a look. I'll talk about some of the analytic work that we're doing with schools. So please get involved in that. But do like, share, and subscribe. We're here on LinkedIn. We're here on YouTube and Substack and Spotify. They are recorded shows and go out after the live event. But please do get involved in the conversation. We do say, I mean, that's what this is about. It's about growing a conversation. It isn't just about talking at you, but the guests are here to talk about their expertise and their influence on the system. So please do get involved in the conversation. I know many of you do, and really appreciate your contributions to the show. Just an advert to what's going on. You know that I've been sharing details about the books that I'm writing. The Efficient School has been out now for a year. It's there available on Amazon. Please use the QR code if you want to get a copy. It's there. It's the work that we do within Smart Curriculum. And a follow-up book called The Perfect Timetable is coming out soon. Should be out in March 2026. It's not the typical timetabling book, which is all about how you do it. It's more about how you lead it. And I've described it as the book for the leader who's scared of the dark art of scheduling. So that's coming out in March. So please watch out for that. We'll be talking more about it later. But the Efficient School is there, and many people are engaged with that. And then obviously, if you want to talk to me about those processes afterwards, please then do so. So let's get back to our conversation. I've switched you around this time.
Places, excellent.
So, Jill, let's do a bit more and talk a bit more about well-being. So we've talked a lot here about sort of staff well-being and leadership well-being, and that looking after yourself and the connected groups and so on. What are you seeing in the sense? I mean, obviously in the context of AI, there's lots of conversation about well-being of children and make sure they're in a safe and safeguarded environment. What are you seeing across the schools in terms of children and the whole issue of well-being in children?
Gosh, I think the issues with the well-being in children is it's ongoing. I mean, I think that we obviously had post-COVID, we had a bit of a tidal wave of anxiety and emotions that were running very high. And we did a lot of work post-pandemic to support schools with what they were seeing in their schools with, high levels of anxiety in many cases. I think that the dust has settled, but I do feel that with the added pressures of school workload, cognitive load, etc., exam pressures, what am I going to do in the future? Perhaps there's things, going on around the world that are impacting their well-being as well. The world is a very volatile place, and we seem to go from year to year with just more challenges on the horizon. So I think that's very unsettling for young people in particular. I have lots of conversations with it about it with my children, to be honest. We try and put the world to rights, and you can only imagine, if you multiply that by how many other thousands of kids around the UK all talking about the same thing. So I think that is quite an important point for us to consider at the moment.
And are there any markers of what you see of, among the schools, great innovative practice in there? I mean, I know there's lots of debates in places around sort of AI policy and what can and can't be done, and mobile phone policy and what can and can't be done, and devices and screen time, and there's lots, and we've had lots of guests on that have talked through those things. I actually was talking to someone yesterday that was saying is that the AI space that the concern was that it's practice before policy, but actually I'm not sure that you could come up with policy before, because it's so new and it's moving so fast. How would you know what to decide? You're kind of responding. It's very kind of responsive in that. So, go on.
Exactly. It's I mean, in Australia, the 16-year-old pre-16 ban on social media. There's mixed schools of thought on that. And obviously that regulation has come in after many years of kids being able to use social media before the age of 16. So it's a really tricky one, isn't it? Some people I speak to say that there's no links between using social media and anxiety levels and mental health problems, but other people I speak to say that there is. So, there are many different thoughts on the subject. But it's very difficult being a parent in this modern world as well, isn't it? We've got to try and be as sensible and as pragmatic as we can about it all as well, and keep the balance and all of that. But it's very challenging.
And I think that so Christine, maybe that's it's the teaching. I mean, I often say to leaders, don't ban stuff before you've given it a chance to teach them, because if you start banning, it actually gains the kudos of I want to do that because you're telling me I can't. That's that's just knowing children.
And it is. I mean, when my children were small, we didn't have a timed sweet box. It was there, and then they never had an issue with eating too much sugar or anything else like that. So there is always that dilemma. And I think what's tricky now is if you don't embrace it. It's a bit like the use of mobile phones, and I know it's best off out on school day. Totally get that. It's the misuse is going to happen, and the curiosity is going to increase when you haven't got the buffer of the education behind it as well. And I think going back to mental health and what's going on in the world as well with connectivity is that it's great that the world is more connected now. But with that comes a huge responsibility, and also comes with the reporting of truth. Now, it doesn't matter what media channel you put on, they are all biased in one way or the other, aren't they? And therefore, seeking out the truth, which is so important now, is going to cause anxiety. I mean, but for adults, I mean, you hear things all weekend on the news, and you're trying to balance in your head what you think you know and what you should know, and who says what, and we're never allowed to come down from that. Whereas I think 30 or 40 years ago, we led quite simple lives. I mean, when the supermarkets weren't even there and opening on a Sunday, for example. We have challenges every minute of the day, 7 days across the world, just with our local or national issues. It's huge.
It's exactly.
And there's actually a mindset. I mean, I've this is my opinion, and I did sort of run with this when that was my job. that we need to teach staff and children how to live in that world. That's a very different approach to keep that world out until later. But and it is you both referred to it, so it's teaching children to question, it's teaching children to evaluate, the critical thinking. How true is this? Where's it come from? What's the source of it? Why would it be biased? What's going to manage, how's that affecting my thinking and my response? Now we know, Finland and Estonia have built those sort of policies into their education policy. So they are responding and saying, well, we are going to teach children to be balanced and get different views. I mean, we know parts of the world where we've got concerns about what's coming out and how things are moving. And it's not just America. There are Germany and other places. So have you seen any among the schools in the community? Are there any interesting approaches that leaders are using in curriculum to kind of to deal with it? I know, my feel is face it, deal with it, respond to it, manage it in a safe environment. What from your experience?
So at a recent EDI meeting, for example, we emphasized the triple well-being framework, to be honest, because I think that in itself can really help people not only look after themselves, but understand how to look after people, but how to be connected, why it's important to be connected, but also why it's important to understand viewpoints and explore differences, but look at similarities, but look at the world around you and how connected we are to the world, and why our roles as citizens of the world are so important. So I honestly do. I'm a firm believer in it, and I think I do know that schools are starting to adopt triple wellbeing more and more. And I think, Christine, your school, working with Laura in our wellbeing network as well, have started to use some of the curriculum resources too that the triple wellbeing framework can provide. So that's what I'm sort of seeing. And I think, more and more schools are looking at ways of helping people to experience joy, and just look at the positives as well, because we spend so much time focusing on the negatives and countering, these echo chambers that we seem to end up in sometimes, and that it's just not healthy for us. So I think the more that schools can do to focus on the positives and draw those out and get young people thinking about what's great about the world and what's great about their community, I think that will really, really go a long way to help.
That's such an important point, Jill. I find that you're absolutely right. And in fact, other conversations that I have, somebody said that to me just recently. We've lost the joy in school. It's got so centered on high stakes performance measures. Even parents looking for that. That kind of the cartoon that says, in the old days it was, something wasn't going well at the parents' evening, they'd look at the child and say, "What aren't you doing?" And now they look at the teacher and say, "Well, what aren't you doing?" It's kind of that the joy has gone from it. And I remember. Well, sorry. Christine, you said the number of years. I could say it's 41 years this year that I've been involved in professional teaching. But it's been, when I started, there was, as a design technology teacher and running the workshops and doing those things, we had fun. We made stuff with the kids that they enjoyed, and they got a big amount of joy in that. Now I see, what have I got to do to get a better grade? What have I got to do? How am I going to learn this? Or look at this stuff I've got to learn. We kind of lost that sense of humanity, joy. Does that resonate, Christine?
Yeah, it does. And what was lovely when the kids came back to school last Wednesday, we had assembly in the morning, and I was just stood outside the hall watching everyone going in, and the camaraderie, the hugs, the playfulness. From little ones up to the older ones, tugging at each other. Where have you been? I'm glad to see you. The joy was amazing. And I think what we do is sometimes adults are we have a tendency to look at not the bad things, but sometimes we deal with a lot of negative issues, and therefore we think the whole world is negative. You've only got to look at the news; it's quite negative. You never have a news channel that goes, "Guess what? Today this happened and this happened. Wouldn't it be lovely if we had a news channel that did that?" Hey, there's a good idea. Might start up.
Exactly. Yeah.
You kind of go like joy. let's focus on it, because it is sort of the 80-20 rule, isn't it? We all hear about the bad, but we don't realize there's so many good people and good things and great experiences and out there, and we need to probably just focus on that a little bit more and be positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, positive news is a good one to look at.
Yeah.
They celebrate all sorts of positive things going on around the world, which is lovely, and to do with the environment as well, because obviously climate change is hot topic as well. And, so yeah, looking at positive news.
So that what you're really saying is that adaptability and that responsiveness is important. So it's not just, trudging way through the, I think you go through the specification, have I covered everything, but actually finding opportunity for Christine, what you said earlier, that deep learning experience, that relevance experience, but also the opportunity to have some fun, enjoy enjoy learning for what it is.
And we all know how good it feels to laugh, don't we? Yeah. And to have that joy, and sometimes problems aren't solved inside the classroom, sat at the desk, are they? Go outside, go take your class for a walk together in the woods, safely, of course, and breathe and talk, because, as I say, problems don't just happen. You don't resolve things just in the classroom. Look at things like the Apollo 13, when they had to get their heads together in a cramped space, they did it. Look at all the different scenarios where people getting together, no matter where it is and what the circumstances, humans getting together can solve problems and do it joyfully as well.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is, in adversity, lots of great things are accomplished, but it does take that process, and fresh air is a great instigator, isn't it? It is. I know, when things got very stressful, getting out and just going for a walk around the field was not a bad idea. I've done that with kids many times. The behaviour room was not the place to send them. It was just go and get some fresh air and come back and talk to me in a minute.
And as a musician, I do believe in the power of singing as well, even if you're in class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
exactly.
Jill, can I just come to, you've mentioned it too a couple of times already, the triple wellbeing process.
Yeah.
Can you just give us an outline of what it means? So if people that are listening to this are interested, you lead it within the Society of Heads. Obviously, there's an organisation behind it. What's the main characteristics of it? Just if people are interested.
Yeah, so it's called the Triple Wellbeing Framework because there are 3 pillars, if you like. So self-care, people care, and earth care. And it is about understanding that they are all connected, because our well-being is supported by everyone's well-being, which is also supported by the earth's well-being. And our well-being is supported if the earth is feeling well. So you end up with this lovely cycle that one supports the other, and it just continues to go round and round. So yeah, self-care we've spoken about. That's just about looking at ways of looking after yourself, basically, and finding joy for yourself. What brings you joy? What can you do to nourish yourself, to recharge? The people care part of the framework it's quite big, actually. There are several parts to it, but that will include citizenship and belonging. So I spoke a little bit earlier about how we're all citizens of the world, citizens in our own communities, and how we can connect or better connect with people and the world, so we can do our little bit to help it, do our little bit to help other people. I think that it also includes things like mattering and belonging. To support well-being, we need to feel part of something, and that we have a part to play in all of that, to make it work. So I think in organizations and potentially in school communities, if you've got people who don't feel like they matter or belong, then that can really, really impact their well-being. We've also got, as part of people care, exploring different perspectives. So this is why we spoke about it at our EDI meeting, because it's all about celebrating diversity, exploring perspectives, sharing stories, that kind of thing. So the Triple Wellbeing Framework can be used in lots of different ways. And I think we've spoken today about, joining the dots in the curriculum. Christine spoke about using water as a topic, which is great. So how can you link that right the way across? How can you tell a story that might link to lots of different subjects? So it almost becomes like a whole school project. And then, of course, the earth care part of triple wellbeing is all about, trying to look after our planet as best we can, but being aware of the earth and connecting with it, connecting with nature, which is good for our well-being too, and being appreciative and grateful. Gratitude is such a big part of it as well, and I think the more grateful we can feel and sort of spend regular amounts of time thinking about what we're grateful for can also really help our well-being too. So there we are. In a nutshell, that's the triple well-being framework.
And we'll try and put a link to the framework website and detail in the notes that go out with the show.
Great.
Yeah, if we'll do that. But of course, obviously, and the Society of Heads and what you're doing.
Thank you,
Christine. In terms of what the framework has been sort of worked through, what's the biggest impact on curriculum provision? I mean, you've talked about going back to a kind of traditional view. I mean, with Jill, I love the idea of this, theme, because I mean, it's effectively phenomenon-based learning. So what is water to us? I had Marcella Starakoff on the show from Sussex University talking about the joy of not knowing and finding out, and then the joy of just, I don't know this. I'm excited by it. That's a really fascinating stuff. What do you think the kind of the future is in terms of curriculum? Because I fear a little of the kind of go back to a traditional, we're just going to do what we know. How do we keep it live? How do we keep it full of that joy and life?
That's a really good question. I think if I had the true answer to that, I could write a book and earn lots of money. But I think the way I look at it is, I think there's, traditional skills that we learn through learning in the past. I think there's a lot to be said for those. And I do feel that we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. At the same time, we've got to look at the new skills and, such as AI. I mean, I probably over-rely on it at the moment. And I'm starting to think, would I be able to write a letter myself properly now, or draft a paper? It's too quick to go to AI. But the benefits of it, we have to embrace it. Are we the last generation to hold on to the past? I don't know. What does the future generations coming up, what will their attitudes be? Maybe we seem to be foolish to be holding on to anything from the past, and yet we have got to where we are and managed to do all this stuff because of who we've been in the past. Big question, not an easy answer. No. Big, hard, deeping thinking space problem for the future.
Yeah. And I think I was actually talking to a school leader about this whole thing about innovation and we came down to this simple fact: is if you were teaching children to innovate and to be entrepreneurs and so on, what would you do if you all the lessons were innovative and they were coming up with ideas, and then you ignored them all? If you ignored the child's answers and solutions,
you're going to shut them down. You've got to allow the children to have the ideas and help them bring them forward, because that's learning in itself, isn't it? Because we've all got to learn that sometimes our ideas may not come to fruition. It can be frustrating. It's going to build resilience. They might work. You might get joy from it. You might get frustration from it. Your well-being may need being charged after you've done some of these things. But that's the way we learn, isn't it? You can't. It is. I would never say to somebody, "Hey, no, I wouldn't," or "Come on, let's explore that. Let's have a go."
And that hopefully it's what we do with our teaching staff and with our leaders too, rather than closing innovation because it doesn't fit the mold. Sorry, go on, Christine.
Just something flew in my head then. And I sometimes, when we have new staff come to our school, they've been in a school where it's been so prescriptive. They've got PowerPoints and worksheets and everything else. This is how you're going to teach it. This is how you're going to deliver it. And this is what I expect the outcomes to be. I've never taught like that in 32 years. And I tell people when they come here, throw it out the window, burn it, enjoy burning it, because all we want at the outcome is the outcomes and how you get there, as long as it's the right things to do, the right phrases, the right words, the right information. It doesn't matter how you get there.
No, exactly.
Christine, I think that I think is a key marker between. And I would say, people say to me, "Oh, yeah, it's okay in the independent sector. It's not like that in the state sector." It's not true.
No.
It's what gets into our minds, and if you
Yeah.
transfer between them, if that's how you think, exactly as you said, if that's what you're used to, that's what you do, and that's
Yeah.
We've got to liberate academic staff to do. They're doing what they're doing because they're good at it, not because somebody gave them a series of lesson plans or whatever. They're doing it because they've got a passion, and therefore we have to liberate our staff and give them the autonomy and the power, autonomy to go ahead and teach and be passionate teachers, and not restricted by what leaders feel or how people should deliver, because it makes them feel more in control. That's wrong.
Exactly.
And that's tied up with the motivation theory that says autonomy, mastery, and purpose, the AMP, the power behind it. That's what powers us as individuals. Knowing that I've got something myself, I'm good at it, and I've got reason. I'm going to pass it on. I'm going to give that really makes a difference, doesn't it? Jill, you were going to say something then. Oh, sorry, both.
Yeah, no, I think just again, just thinking out loud and touching on what Christine was just saying, I think that that creativity in the classroom is so important. If teachers have got the flexibility to deliver a lesson that's been adapted and it's inclusive, so it caters for everybody in the classroom, and because not everybody's the same, everybody learns in different ways, and that will decrease some anxiety, I think, in the classroom as well, because I think and just by the fact that it is more creative and more interesting, it will just bring more joy and fun as well. So
I suppose there's two things out of that, aren't there? There's I can do it because I know to do it, and it's I'm not conforming to someone else's plan. It's just I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it, and I'm not failing because. And actually, failure is not a problem, is it? If this doesn't work, I'll try again. If we didn't have Edison, the lights would be off, and he tried it. Was it 4,000 times? That's I can't remember the number now, but he made them several times over. Christine, go on. You're gonna say.
I think it doesn't matter what personality you have as a teacher. You don't have to be the all singing, all dancing. You could be the quiet ones. What's really important is small things sometimes can create awe and wonder. And when you walk into a class, if you experience that awe and wonder of learning, the joy is in there as well. So along with the learning comes the well-being. And so therefore, that's what I would look when I'm walking around the school, those moments of awe and wonder. And I've seen some brilliant practice. Just fabulous. Hairs stood up on the back of my neck. And that's what we want.
If you're listening to this as a leader or a teacher, try it. Because this is what's going to change the system. If you're frustrated with it, it's what's going to do it. Give people the space to innovate, try, with all the safeguarding and whatever, but be free enough and confident enough to say, I'll give it a go. I'll support you. That wouldn't you both agree with that?
Absolutely. I think the emerging system can become the dominant system. There's always change, isn't there? And I think this is about grabbing it now. Now's a great opportunity to run with it.
So we're coming to the end of our conversation. We've had an hour of talking, so it's lovely to have talked to you. But I always ask guests at the end of our conversation in Friday Focus, if you could change one thing, what would you seek to change? And Christine, you responded first there. So if you could see one thing change, what would you seek it to be?
I take education away from politics and party dominance for it to be a national treasure that is everyone can input into and find the best outcomes, and there's no politics involved.
I think those of us that have been around it for a while would agree with you entirely. I've written on that quite a lot, and I think there are others that have supported that. I think I would agree with you. Jill, one thing that you would like to see change?
It's very hard to pick one thing, Chris. But I think for me it would be focusing on the joy, the fun, the love of learning, and putting people at the heart of everything that decision makers do. For me that would be a big step forward.
And there's a lot of things that I get kind of the energy changed at that, but we want to see people we want to see children enjoying life and not feel that pressure in the way. And you know, it's a lot of reason why some teachers are leaving the profession, because they don't feel that joy. It's become quite mundane. So it's a massively important thing, isn't it?
May I give an example before we sign off? So a very lovely friend of mine called Tina Farr, she's the head teacher of St Ebb's Primary School in Oxford. She made it to BBC Breakfast News recently, so you might have seen it, but she's started to play music at school drop-off. In the morning, the parents and the kids come into the playground dancing and singing, and it's just brilliant. And she's just created this amazing place of just fun. And it just puts everybody in such a great frame of mind before they start the day. Then the kids are loving it, and the staff are loving it, and the parents equally. So yeah, it's just a great initiative. I just thought worth sharing.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, these are the things that make the difference. I mean, what could you want more than come into school with a smile on your face?
Exactly.
Got some energy in you, and you're ready to do something. That's significant.
Great way to start the day. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, look, both of you, thank you so much for joining me for the conversation. So this is, as we've said already, this is a recorded episode. So, but if you have comments or things to share, please do on YouTube and LinkedIn, put the comments in, and we'll be watching the feed and we'll respond. If you want to get in touch with Christine or with Jill, leave your message there. Message ourselves at Smart Curriculum. I'll just put the details on the screen. So info@smartcurriculum.net, or the office phone number. Please contact us if you want to get involved. Now, obviously, this is in country. If you're an international person, please do email us. The world is a small place now, and Zoom and Teams and so on are very common practice. I seem to spend my whole life on it these days, but that's where it is. So, but thank you both for being here. We're going to sign off in a moment. Just to remember, if you've liked the conversation, please do share it with colleagues. Please do like and subscribe wherever you've heard or seen this. We really appreciate your input. Thank you for being here. Do stay on for a moment, my guests, and I will just press the button and we'll finish. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you.